But it's your passion, none of us work there for the money. To have that chance to work for your club was just exceptional. There's been difficult times, but I wouldn't swap it.
There's Prince Albert of Monaco on the next table, and I started to talk about Manchester City. You can buy the club. Now listen, mate, if you buy that club, you will be a legend in Manchester, an absolute hero.
We have to focus on that as well. Fostering is always going to be there, probably, sadly, but we also have to look at how we can prevent things, and so I'm a massive advocate for fostering.
What year did you join Manchester City?
July 86.
July 86.
I know, yeah, a long time ago.
I have the great pleasure this week of my friend Geoff Durbin, was commercial manager at Man City for many years. Of course, when you first came, were you the assistant commercial manager then?
I was technically called sales and marketing manager, but
Right.
It's the journey's an interesting one because my sort of career development up to then was fairly standard in a way, in terms of a sort of family that expects their kids to go to uni, then go and work for a big blue chip company. So I worked for Cadbury Typhoo, actually. It was the tea and foods division. So although we had the Cadbury bit, we also had things like Marvel and Cadbury's chocolate spread, all the things no one wanted to sell, but we had Cadbury's fingers, so we had some good things. So I did that for 3.5 years, but I've always been a massive City fan. Born in Stockport, but we moved down south when I was a lot younger, and always sort of thought, well, I want to get back to Manchester. And then the thought occurred to me, I got to know a few people. And one day, the April, probably that year, I wrote a letter saying, look, this is me. I'm working at Cadbury Typhoo, but I'd love to combine my career with my passion at City. Any chance of anything happening? Thinking, well, it's just a waste of time. To my amazement, got a letter back saying, well, actually, we are reviewing, our needs and requirements. Come up for an informal chat. And 2 interviews later, I sat in front of Peter Swales, who wanted 5 minutes with me. He asked me one question. Geoff, can you take stick? And I waffled about some story about selling Typhoo tea bags to a Scottish cash and carry manager, and thought, well, a bit in a way like later on in life with the fostering journey, it's like, well, if I don't do it, I'll regret it. What's the worst that can happen? I can always go back to Cadbury's or something. And I did 14 seasons, very happy seasons at City after that.
So did you have to take a pay cut originally?
Yeah, I was on 12 grand at Cadbury's then, and I took a cut to 9. But it's your passion, none of us work there for the money. We did it because we to have that chance to work for your club was just exceptional. And, I was very, very fortunate to have about 35 years working in professional sport. But the thing that the letter taught me was, you do need luck. I mean, I could have written to 92 Football League clubs and got a response from probably 20, and most would say, no, I only wrote to one, and it's, ended up in a job. You've got to make your own luck. You've got to do that bit. You've got to do the research. You've got to actually, put yourself in the best possible position you can, and then decide whether you go for it or not. And, that worked pretty well.
Because then after Man City, I don't know where Geoff told you in the car, end up doing the same role at Lancashire Cricket Club.
Yeah, well, I was commercial director at Lancashire Cricket Club. Yeah, going up in the world there. So fantastic club. A bit too close to the other Old Trafford, but they used to be our biggest customer. So I had to get used to that, because about 10% of our catering turnover came from all the hospitality we do with them. And everyone who was involved at the time. I was there 15 years. I was there one year longer than City, actually. Yeah, amazing. So.
When you think, Geoff, nearly 30 years at, the major football ground.
It was even more than 30, because after that, I did a few different things. I was at Bury for a little while after I left Lancs, doing some work for them, which was a very interesting time. Ended in tears, but that's another podcast all on its own.
Yeah.
But my last sort of swan song was 3 years at Warrington Wolves. So having done football, cricket and rugby league, 3 different shape, size balls. Not many people probably do that. And I tell you what, Warrington was a bit like going back to City. It was a smaller family culture. Absolutely loved it there. Built a really good sales team. We did really well. Really loved my time there. You switch from being, your commercial manager hat on to, I'm just a fan again. That's how I started. I only ever wanted to work at City because I was a fan.
So did you get to watch the games?
Yeah. Yes.
Because I'm very I obviously see you about on match days and at the training ground at times. I knew you was an important cog in the because you was obviously suited and booted. I didn't know, and that is, I don't know. You're a little bit sheltered as a player. You don't understand what's going on at the football club. Being a footballer, you just play football. You don't appreciate what everybody else is doing.
Well, Woody asked about sort of how much I remember of you, and I think the reality is that some players spend a lot more time with the commercial side. That you get certain players who'll be in your office sort of all the time. You're almost like, you're here again. What's going on? And also in terms of nights out, we always used to go out together. But you were one of the ones that didn't go out that much when we all went out. And also in the club, you probably kept yourself to yourself. So we would come across each other and remember you, but you're not one of the players that we'd hang out all the time and have been sort of firm friends ever since.
What
And
was they
there's
coming
some-
into the commercial office for?
Well, it
Players?
used to
Have
be.
I missed out on something?
Yes, because if you wanted a contact for it, well, maybe because you had Woody, you didn't need.
No, he didn't have me.
No,
Did
you
you
know
not?
what?
No.
I was a little bit of a recluse. What I've said about it, I
Right.
kept myself to myself. I joked around and all that, but then I went home. I didn't get involved. I was,
Well, if you had done it, was usually because in those days, let's be honest, the players weren't paid a huge amount of money. So if you wanted a car, a television, a carpet, a solicitor, well, who do we go and speak to? Well, commercial guys have got sponsors do all these things, so they'll get me a good deal. So you can imagine someone like Brownie, be the obvious one. Brownie was in there, and it'd be and sometimes it'd be, my parents are coming up for the weekend, so can I put them in corporate? But how much would it be? 75 quid a head. 75 quid a head. You can do it for 35, and that would be that sort of conversation. Or Andy Morrison coming in, as we said before, and just because he wanted to give. A weak commercial manager a big bear hug, and they were unforgettable moments.
Mate.
Literally, where I thought I can't breathe, but it was like.
And in his early days, I know this because obviously Mick McCarthy, bless him, he used to give you a little bit of a tough time, didn't he, Geoff?
I don't know. Yes, he did. Yeah, I mean, Mick was fearsome when he used to frighten his own defenders, let alone commercial managers. So what we do after a game, we would get photos of sponsors, match ball sponsor, which I had to take down to the dressing room to get signed by the particular player. Well, when you go into, you'll know what this is like. If you get someone coming into your empire, your territory, your dressing room, it's tough because you're an outsider, and basically the lads can be pretty vicious. So when I had a bit more hair, then people used to say I looked like David McCallum, who was the Invisible Man from Man from U.N.C.L.E. Then I was Martin Lewis, the newsreader. Clive Wilson only ever called me Martin. He never called me Geoff because he thought I looked like Martin Lewis. So they go through all these names, and Mick would be there thinking, Invisible Man, Martin Lewis. More like fucking Kojak. I thought, thanks, mate. That's right. Just taking the mickey sort of thing. Kenny Clements would lock me in there. Remember that sauna that was down there?
Yeah.
They used to think it was great fun. You're there in your suit and everything. Let's just lock Geoff in the sauna for a little bit and see until you should come out like you've been in the rain. Mick, going back to Mick, I mean that was frightening really when you used to do that. But then there's the bit of you, and that's the fan thing. I'm a fan. I'm just a fan. I'm just an ordinary bloke going into the City dressing room with all the players, getting autographs and doing it. So it was great.
So sorry, I'm probably showing a little bit of naivety. So I don't understand your job. So your job was networking, getting sponsorship in, marketing what we had as a football club.
The difference then is the commercial manager did everything. So we would write the programme and get it printed. We did the lotteries. We did
So I imagine
sponsorship.
it was tough back
We
then,
did
wasn't it?
advertising. All the boards that you saw around Main Road, we would sell. Non-match day, literally everything. Whereas
Hospitality, and you were over all that, weren't you?
yeah, but hospitality when I started was the sponsor suite for 45 and the exec suite next door for 95. That was all we had.
Right,
By the time I left Main Road, we had 1,750 places with the new kip packs and everything.
So
up
did
there,
it become more difficult, the job in itself?
It was
the
pretty
worst
hard.
because obviously we had tough times, didn't we?
It was pretty hard selling 1,750 corporate places when we were in the third tier of English football, put it that way. But we did it. I think that's probably one of the prouder times for all of my team at that time, because we found sort of very creative way. We basically forget the football. The football is irrelevant. We're going to have the best food. We're going to have the best crack. We're going to have former players. We're going to have fun. We're going to get the pricing right. And we worked with supporters clubs on the very sort of cheapest packages, and it worked really, really well. But it was tough. Nowadays, I think it's harder because the pressure, the expectation. If you're treble winners, there's nowhere to hide. If you're looking at commercial partnerships, you're expected to sell absolutely everything and at the best price. Yeah. Whereas when you were selling some of the, so you imagine some of the match day experiences for sponsors who've been and seen us lose at home to Mansfield and Lincoln again or whatever. It's like, well, okay, you're doing pretty well to do what you're doing. So I think the pressure was less for us, to be quite honest.
A bit more like being a car dealer, like me. Do a bit of wheeler dealing, chipping the price. And
if you remember, I did actually bring you into an official role at Manchester City. Can you remember that? Do you remember what your role was?
Car sales advisor.
I think that's
Was that?
I think it was consultant.
To players or?
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, I have made many amends to him for my very, very poor behaviours. Was it when they first opened the David Lloyd Club?
It was. Yeah.
So Geoff, being my mate, and absolutely star. We were playing a bit of squash as well.
Squash
at the time.
together, yeah.
Do you want a free membership at David Lloyd? So,
yeah.
What am I? You work for the club on a car advisory consultancy basis, right? But you don't even know the rest of this story.
I think I possibly do.
So me being my bit, the blag I did at the time was getting to well in with the girls who worked in reception, so I could blag my mates in for now. You with me? That was always this. I was always on that scam with everything, whatever I was doing. Wasn't really, a lot of the time wasn't even for me to save money. It was to get other people to save them money. So as the black, so I'd got to know these girls over there. I knew all the names, and some of them were pretty good looking and all that. So
which helps.
Bit of that stuff. Took a few of them to the match and all that stuff. But of course, many years later, I used to walk in. Nobody did anything. I just opened the gate, through I went. There wasn't any of these code things. And one day I walked in and there's a woman there, and I said, "Oh, can you let me in?" And she said, "Where's your card?" I said, "Oh, I'm with Manchester City." She said, "We haven't had a contract with them for 4 seasons."
It did you pretty well, that, didn't it, to be fair?
I was blagging it. I got 4 and all that time. Yeah, honestly, just mental.
Hopefully they're not going to be coming for you for money now.
The subs.
Yeah. No, it was a long time ago. But, I was the enabler, basically, wasn't I?
I suppose that's where my exploitation of my friendship with Geoff probably got at its most, because I'd take more people in than I had the tickets for, and I had all sorts of blags going on.
So did you have to pull him aside at all?
Yeah, there's the odd occasion. I mean... You see, my perspective on it is slightly different in that I remember having to balance things out. So it's like, well, how far can I let this guy go legitimately? Because he is buying his hospitality. Well, maybe not every place, because I knew you'd blag a few in. But anyway, there was still money coming in. You had a good network of people coming in, also contributing. So that was fine. Occasionally, though, you would go a bit too far, which we won't go into the details of what it might be. But if it was above that sort of red line, I would then sort of pull him to one side.
I don't mind you telling the details, Geoff, if you want.
Well, I think that would be up to you. But let's just say it occasionally involved drugs and excessive quantities of alcohol. And if it was something that could jeopardise me, I would then put my arm around your shoulder and say, "It's time for a polite bollocking, Woody." And that polite bollocking has been a phrase that we've used on many occasions.
How long would that polite bollocking put him back in place? How long would it be before...
It would never take long, really. You couldn't do, really.
It'd be back above the red line pretty sharpish, would it?
Yeah, possibly. But also, don't forget that because I'd go out with Woody quite a lot, and actually, the reason he used to let me out, and I can see your wife at the time, Ali, you'd say, "I'm going out with Geoff," because I was safe. I wasn't a massive drinker.
So
I wasn't, it'd be like, I'm the sensible one, and it'd be all right then. So say he was using me, but I was allowing myself because I'm thinking, well, I'm going to have a good night out as well. So it was a symbiotic relationship.
It was wonderful. I'm only going out with Geoff.
So it's obviously worked because you're still really good friends. And I can see the friendship between you.
I've got to tell you, Geoff is one of the most beautiful people. He's a top man. And him and his wife, Nikki, they've gone on to just great things. But just before we go on to that, when you actually think about, can you imagine, commercial manager at City for 15 years and similar, can you imagine the amount of people that you have met, like well-known, famous people, Geoff? Wow, people, some people only meet 1 or 2 well-known people in their whole life, don't they? It's quite amazing how the people that you will have met.
It's an interesting one, that, because I think and I think anyone who works in a similar capacity to myself will probably resonate with them, that you do just get used to that, and it becomes something that you realise very quickly. This very false image you have of these sort of superstars, they're just the same as us, really. Doesn't mean you're not overawed by some. I mean, the first time I met Colin Bell, the heart rates go in and all the rest. There's certain people that you because they were up there in your youth in terms of the legendary status.
He's told me a wonderful story. It all stems from that application to City, "Can I come?" And you end up getting the job, and your parents weren't best pleased at the time, were they? They were saying you had a stable job. What are you doing? You're taking a pay cut, and you went through that journey, and it finished with them obviously saying what they said to you.
No, I'd forgotten we'd talked about that in the car. I mean, my parents, it's 20 years since they passed away, bless them, and we were very close family, and very traditional family. They were quite traditional, church going, brought up in a certain way. So, you know, after my 2 older brothers, both, you know, gone to university, got a 2-1, got good jobs, passed the driving test first time. I came along 9 years later, the miracle baby, Woody, you know, apparently. I challenged my mum on this many times. Come on, I was an accident, wasn't I? No, you were a miracle baby. So I went along with that. So I followed them and I had this pressure on me all the time, you know, all these things. And I'm doing all that, aren't I? You know, 2-1 at university, passed my driving test first time, and, you know, got a nice job at Cadbury's. Then I say to them, oh, by the way, you know that football club I support, City, I'm going to work there. Are you sure you're making the right, you know what, you know, there was lots of conversation about that. And they did challenge me, but they supported me all the way through. But I still thought they don't really think I've made the right choice. It goes all the way to the playoff final that we were talking about in the car. And after the game, we're relaxing in the Hilton. Players, obviously, it was probably about half an hour later when they come in. And, you know, Joe comes in first, massive bear hug with Joe and Brownie and Edgy and everyone, you know, it's like, and my parents are watching this. And they, you know, they turned to me and said, oh, you know, we're really proud of you. And it was, I knew my parents were proud of me generally, but it was one of those moments I'll never forget because they finally got it, you know, as to why I joined. And that just meant so much that they actually got it at that time. And fair play to them. They could have sort of said, you're nuts, why are you doing it? I'm sure they had their doubts. I can imagine actually mum and dad speaking on their own thinking, what's he doing? You know, Margaret would have said, Terry, you're going to have a word. I could just see them doing all that. But they stuck with it. But that's what matters. I mean, we want our parents to be proud of us. We want our kids to be proud of us. You know, relationships, it sounds so obvious really now, the older you get, but there is nothing more important than relationships. That's the best part of the journey I've had, the people I've met, including yourself, Woody. You know, I mean, seriously,
thanks,
but feel very, very lucky. Very lucky. You know, there's nothing I would swap. There's been difficult times, but I wouldn't swap any of it.
I'm just thinking how far the club's come, and I was thinking of some of the conversations that me and Geoff had had. You phoned me and said, have you got any wealthy friends that would consider buying this club? Because we're really struggling. Do you remember the conversation?
Story. Yeah, I do, yeah.
I said, well, how much would it cost? And you said, oh, only 2 million, which 2 million for Man City, but 30, I think it was at the time, but about 30 million pounds worth of debt. So we think 32 million for Manchester City. Just put that into perspective now. Yeah. So he's told me about this, and then I'm thinking, well, I haven't got anyone who's got 2 million spare. And then I'm thinking maybe we could all chip a bit in. I didn't have nothing. I was a big spender, but I didn't have a load.
Imagine that, and you'd have been a director of City.
Oh, well, the next wind on, maybe only a few weeks or maybe a few months. I find myself in Monte Carlo, right, in the Café de Paris. Fucking blind to this. And I'm with one of my ex-wives, Alison, and she was a big Hello magazine reader. It was the big thing at the time, with a friend of mine, Soapy, and his wife. And we're in the Café de Paris and in the square in Monte Carlo. Have you been to Monte Carlo?
No,
oh, it's
not
pretty,
yet.
It's pretty, you've been, Geoff,
Yeah, it's pretty special.
Swish. So we're just sat having a coffee in this bar, and then she says, oh, look, there's Prince Albert of Monaco on the next table, just like there, yeah. Prince Albert, Monaco. And I'm like, do me a favour. Now, I know that Prince Albert is a massive football fan, by the way, because he actually sponsors Monaco FC. They don't hardly get anybody watching the games, do they? But he pumps all the money and everything. Did he win the Champions League one season? I think they might have done, Monaco. Anyway.
Won it, but they've done all right.
Yeah, they've done really well. So, but before...
Unless my memory's gone, maybe. Yeah.
Before this goes on, of course, I'm going, do you think Prince Albert of Monaco is just going to come and sit in a cafe like this and have a drink? Are you winding me up, proper belittling her? You're talking shit. So anyway, the waiter comes over, so I go, excuse me, mate, got a minute? You know, so he comes over. Yes, monsieur. I went, the guy behind there, who is he? Ah, monsieur, that is Prince Albert. So it was right. She told you. Hello, magazine. Well, I'd have the conversation with him. 2 million. I'm thinking 2 million's nothing to this guy. Yeah. I'll go and see him.
If he's interested.
But one of the things I said, as if he's not going to have loads of bodyguards and all that. So anyway, I stood up and I walked over to speak to him, literally over there. And of course, the guy who sat here and the guy who sat there are his bodyguards. Yeah. And they've gripped me, you know. I said, I'm sorry. I'd had a few, obviously. I I just wanted to speak to Prince Albert about Manchester City. And of course...
Did he know who Man City was?
Oh, mate, did he?
Did he?
Yeah, perfect English. Better English than me and you, mate.
It's not hard, is it?
Spoke a bit like you, Geoff.
You calling me posh?
A little bit.
Articulate.
Articulate, yeah. So he goes, no, whatever they were called, Pierre, whatever. And I sat down. He sat down at the table. He got me a beer, Gospel Truth, and I started to talk about Manchester City. He said, Manchester City, yes, your best team was Colin Bell, Francis Lee, and Mike Summerby. Yes, I know you're a very, very good team, in the past. I said, well, we're really struggling. Now, my mate's the commercial manager, Geoff, right? And he's telling me the other week, we are struggling. Now, we're in the lowest division that we've ever been in the history of the club. And, I mean, they start believing your own insanity, don't you? And he says, for 2 million, but a 30 million debt, but you get Main Road, you can buy the club. And he's like this, he's humouring me, I said, now listen, mate, if you buy that club, you will be a legend in Manchester, an absolute hero. I said, and it's only about an hour and a half in your private jet from here. And I said to him,
You sold him the dream.
No, I said, and I'll pick you up from the airport. I have, Kev, I've got a picture. I've got this picture of me and Prince Albert in the director's box. Well, mate, it's on my mind all night. My OCD's kicking in. First thing in the morning, I'm on the phone. Geoff, you won't believe this.
Have you had the phone call?
Geoff, I spoke to Prince Albert at Monaco. Because when I left him, I said, what do you think? He said, I'll consider it.
Geoff's probably like that. Yeah, all right, mate.
Yeah,
I said, he's considering it. He knows Colin Bell, Francis Lee, Mike Summerby. Anyway, he didn't buy the effing club and never heard from him again.
And if you remember, you were on a bit of a good percentage if you'd have done that. You might not be here now.
I know, I've probably been dead, Geoff.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
It's funny though, isn't it? Like Geoff touched on relationships. Like you, and he was approachable when you could talk to him.
Oh, he was great.
But it's just like everything. Like in recovery, I've noticed like relationships and liking people and getting to know people, being prepared to listen. And listen to people's stories. Like I knew Geoff, but I've never spoke to him. And obviously, I've spoke to him more in the car here than we've ever done. And obviously, I know we're going to go on to.
Unfortunately, I've got to go back with Woody and not with you because there's no chance you could give me a
at
lift
least you've
home.
not got to do both journeys with him.
That's true.
But obviously, I've spoke to Geoff on the way here about the stuff he's done with children. I know we're going to touch on it. I didn't know that about Geoff.
Amazing.
And you don't know about people until you listen.
No,
and give people the time. And I think when you're working, certainly as a footballer, it wasn't because I was with, but I was. You're in your own bubble, and you're not interested in other people. But I am genuinely interested in people now. And I don't know whether that's recovery. I don't know whether that's where I am in my life. I genuinely care about people and how they feel and what they're like and what their thought process is. I'm interested in that now, and that relationship is massive.
I suspect it is because of coming through recovery. But I look at that and think, I've never had to face a battle like that. So I can't really empathise totally. I can appreciate it and feel... I think it's that awareness, really, that actually, and you never quite know who has got struggles and what they're doing. But in your particular case, I didn't really know anything about that. Obviously, I picked up some on the podcast before. So, I'm sort of almost more interested. If I was talking to you for another hour, it'd probably be more about you now and what you're doing. Right? I mean, as a fan, I want to talk about 99 and about the players you played with and all the rest of it, but actually what's more important now is recovery and because you're still in the baby steps of that, really, aren't you? Is it a year and a half or something?
It's nearly a year and 9 months. So compared to Woody, I'm a baby. But I think that's a measure of the person you are. Obviously, we are going to talk about...
What, you mean 5'7" before my son says?
No, but you know what I mean? Like the way you are compassionate about it and you're interested in that. Not many people are. People go, oh, well, yeah.
Really?
Oh, I don't think people are.
Geoff, you've always had I call it a golden core.
A good heart, yeah.
But I do actually think that me and you have always had a golden core, but we've just had pretty
trouble showing it.
Bad behaviours, yeah.
But it is that's what matters, and I mean, I said to you before, I've always been uncomfortable with praise, and I don't like it. Even now, I listen to it, I feel I record, I don't like it. It's the same with my competitive side. I'm an awful loser. I'm not a good winner. You know, I get stuck in the middle somewhere. I can't really appreciate that. And you are what you can't change that. That is the core.
I think you could work on that, Geoff.
Do you? Well,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody likes praise.
Honestly, since I've worked really hard on my self-esteem, I remember being a year sober. And everyone went, well done, well done, well done. I really struggled. I go, oh, God, I had no choice. I'd be dead otherwise.
Yeah.
You know,
So I struggle with praise.
Yeah. At 10 years sober, somebody say to me, you know, hey, well done, 10 years sober. I go, do you know what? Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm proud of that.
You recognise
I've worked really hard. I'm proud of it. But coming back to drink and drugs, of course, bizarrely enough, and this is only one of the reasons that I've invited Geoff in today, because Geoff is now closely linked to drink and drugs, because Geoff and his lovely wife are heavily involved in the fostering, what do they call it, Geoff? Fostering?
Well, we're now called Mockingbird Hub Carers, but we've been involved in fostering now for 11 years. Yeah. So,
but you know, you're involved in the actual. Do you want to tell everybody what you actually?
Yeah,
and the reason that is drink and drugs, of course. Most of the parents,
not all the time, but
is it nearly all? Nearly all drink or drugs?
It's very common, and you know, there's a whole load of things around this that we have learned over the last 11 years, because when you come into it, you are encountering a world that you haven't much before, or not in an impactful way. I mean, you know, my encounters, you know, when I'm thinking of the times we've been out and the people that I know who would be serious drinkers, it was almost like it's in a party type of way, it's in a positive type of way. You don't see the impact that it has on people's lives. But obviously in fostering, we still don't totally know why we decided to do fostering. I mean, my wife used to be a TA, and so she used to often say, well, if only I could bring this child home, I could do more work with them, and that planted a seed. There's other things as well. But when I left Lancashire, it was like I was early 50s, and it's like, I think I was saying to Kev, it's not what's my next job, it's what do I want to do with my life. You know, we've got one shot, haven't we, at it on this planet, and actually the older you get, the more impatient you get, you want to get on with things quicker. So it's like, well, what do you do? And if we're ever going to do it, now's the time. So it was like, what's the worst that could happen? Will we regret it if we don't do it? Yeah, so we went on the journey to fostering. It takes quite a while. You have to go through a very rigorous process of assessment, which actually is a challenge for a lot of people, and it's something that government working on to try and reduce the complexities of that balance between how much safeguarding you have to do and how long it takes, which puts a lot of foster carers off. Heck of a lot to start that process and never get through it. So we get through that. We have our first child through our doors, you know, which is quite a moment. And then we were what was called short-term foster carers. So we would be taking a child into our home who couldn't live with their birth parents for whatever reason at that time. Certainly, all of them will have suffered some form of trauma. So, you know, trauma-informed training and learning how you need to help children in that way is as much important as giving them love and care in your home. It's not just, I've got a spare room, and by the way, you know, a child can come in. There is a professional side of it as well. So you learn this particular aspect you're talking about is the birth parents. You will still arrange contact with birth parents. If it's a baby, it could be almost every day, depending on age and so on. So you will come across the parents. When you go to the contact centre, you'll meet the parents. You're so conscious of the fact that you are responsible for their child. Technically, you know, it's still their child, even if the local authority become corporate parent at some stage. You know, they are the birth parents. Whatever they've been through, whatever their situation, you do not judge as a foster carer. How do you not judge? It's really hard, but you do. Again, it's absolutely key to try and form a little bit of a decent relationship with those parents, because it makes everything a lot easier. So actually that relationship I found quite intriguing, and because I like forming relationships and see it as a challenge, no matter who it is. It's you really can do that actually, and if you do it well, some of the most humbling times have been when a birth parent has said thank you, and you're thinking thank you me for taking your child off it, which is how they perceive it. But if you do it the right way, they can see, yep, you're doing the right thing. You're listening to me. You're not just saying, oh well, I'm just going to do it my way as a foster carer. You try and be respectful of certain things, and that actually helps them. It helps the child as well. Doesn't always happen. As I say, if there might be foster carers listening to this, saying, well, he's talking out of his backside because it isn't like, well, no, it isn't always like that, but you've got to try. And again, it's an example of how relationships are important. You're forming a relationship with the child in your house. You're forming a relationship with the social worker. With all of those, the better those relationships are, the stronger, the more valid they are, the more chance you've got of getting a positive outcome to it. The thing with fostering, though, is it's mixed with incredibly powerful emotions. If you look after a child for a year in your house, you develop hugely close bonds. The L word is one that is talked about a lot. And yeah, of course you love children quite often. Some you bond with more than others. And a short term, that child is going to go on to either return home or potentially long-term foster care. That's usually the two outcomes. And the day that they leave you is tough, really tough, because you form bonds.
I bet, yeah.
And quite often, I think again we were talking in the car. We must have been in the car for 3 hours. We were talking about this.
We're talking quick.
We're talking quick. And basically, you have to be able to deal with those situations. Keeping in touch when a child has left has been. I've often said I couldn't have fostered. I would have had to give up if you weren't encouraged to if the child wants to keep in touch with you. And as you've seen, because you've been to the house and seen pictures of the kids, every child that is on the wall, and you have to be able to deal with that parting at that time, and by keeping in touch, that makes it possible. But without that, I would say I couldn't do it. It's absolutely critical if you can't. And
made me feel really emotional, now, Geoff.
Well, it's incredible. It is incredible.
Well, what I was going to say, it's a very common reaction, and the usual reaction is, that's why I couldn't foster. I couldn't do it because I'd get too attached, and that's where I really want to scream, even though you shouldn't, because what do you think? You shouldn't get attached. Of course you're going to get attached. Yeah. If you're not getting attached, you're probably not doing the job very well. Yeah. But that shouldn't. That's you saying, I won't foster, not I can't foster. Yeah. And that's not criticising someone, because for all sorts of valid reasons, I'll say I can't foster at this moment in time. But actually, all this thing about foster carers are angels and all, foster carers do not want to be considered angels. They're just ordinary people who've decided they're able to do what they do. And it's a privilege to do it. It's an awful lot of people would love to do it, but never get the time, never get the chance. We're so lucky to have been able to do it. And, it sounds a little bit cheesy, but all the things I've ever achieved in my career, nothing comes close to what I've done in fostering.
It's brilliant.
It's a beautiful thing. And I know a lot of the kids have trauma and gone through trauma.
Absolutely, every single one.
But the kids that you've looked after, I consider very lucky. And that's only from speaking to you and your wife for a brief moment. The care you put into it, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I get that, it must be so tough. But knowing that you've given them a chance, or given them a brief moment for however long you've had them, to see what life and being a child and being loved looks like is incredible.
It's funny you picked up on that straight away. We actually had to learn that from the kids that have come back to our house. I mentioned a lad who's now 18 and is just going into independence. And actually, this is quite a funny story. Now, can I tell this without getting stuck up as a foster care? I mean, I think possibly so.
Did you turn them into blues?
Oh, everyone. Absolutely. Yeah, every child that's been through has ended up. We're not forced it, of course, but we might have said, well, if you don't, then
strongly encouraged.
Yeah, well, I've got a season ticket at the Etihad, not Old Trafford. So if they want to come and watch a game, which kids do. Again, this is a very long story. We wanted to keep in touch all the way through. He ended up going to residential. For all sorts of reasons, and I wanted to say, almost as a bit of a mentor and help in the background for all sorts of reasons. Social services wouldn't.
So residential is like a care home.
It's a children's home, a residential.
Is it what they used to call orphanages back in the day and stuff?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I didn't know you were that old actually. You're going back a long way now, but it's a children's residential home.
Yeah.
And we were kept apart for 8 years. And, I fought like anything, official complaints, all the rest of it. But anyway, unfortunately, it was a battle I couldn't win. But
there was no they wouldn't let you see him?
Wouldn't. We were in touch all the way through supporting his mum, who's had her own challenges. So we've always stayed in touch and with her, which was good because then, she would often say, oh, Geoff and Nicky were asking after you. Anyway, last year, he would have been 17 then. We went to a firework party at his mum's house and met up for the first time. So that was quite special. And he's now going into independent living. He's got his own place and lots of challenges around that. But again, part of that is quite interesting and quite exciting. But we talked a lot that when we sort of met up again, he likes climbing, so we did Snowdon, and of course we have to do one of it's the Rhydd Pass, which is one of the hardest ones with blooming drops either side. And anyway, we did it and we talked for ages, and he goes off to all sorts of different places to climb, peaks and things like that. The lakes he goes to a lot, and he says the reason I go to the lakes is because if you remember, you took us on holiday to the lakes. And he says, I always remember this RAF jet because they, the fighters go down the lakes. He says, I was fascinated by that, and sometimes I'd just go off up on my own to, to see the jet go past or whatever. And it was the holidays that we did. We were just doing normal things.
So he goes there to remember.
He goes there. He goes off to different places, doesn't climb, and it instilled.
Amazing.
But that was just normal family life, and I think that's the point you're making, Kev. That what we're doing and other foster carers are doing is giving these children. First of all, safety. That's the number one thing more than anything, because they've not had safety, normality, and a loving family environment. Going through, we take them on holidays. They spent, the first time we've got Christmas with a child in our house. It's like, this is different. And actually, one of the things I have to pay credit to the extended family, because we were a bit worried, well, is this going to somehow negatively impact their Christmas? Because people are very precious about it. It's just family and everything. And I can remember my father-in-law's saying, and I'm sure he wasn't the only one, no, why would you think that this is going to enhance our Christmas? So we got great support from our wider family, which was really, really helpful. But yeah, I think if you do it the right way, there are things, even if they're with you for just that short space of time, that 1 year out of their life, then there's a huge amount that you can do. Again, it's that's why I say, and again, it sounds cheesy, but we do. I think most foster carers would say, despite all the challenges, and there are lots of them, you get far, far much more back than you ever give. And it is the gift that keeps on giving. Even now, this is like 8 years after a child's left our house, and we still have contact and still have.
That's going to go on forever, isn't it? Them children that want to stay in contact, they're going to go on hopefully to have a really nice life, have kids of their own, and it's unbelievable. And
that's what you want for them more than anything. I mean, particularly with this lad's case. But at his core, he's a very, very special person, and that's what I see. And I know he can do well. And there's quite a lot of children like that who you can just see they've got it in them. Even ones that have maybe got everything's going wrong at school, but that you can see that people are giving up on them. But you're giving up for the wrong reason, with the right support, with the right help. Not everyone, but who doesn't want to be successful? Who doesn't want to have a happy life? In whatever shape or form that might be.
That's the goal, isn't it? And we're both obviously in recovery, had our challenges with, drink and drugs and stuff. And you giving love and compassion to kids for whatever level, and it helps them, hopefully, not to go down the path. It certainly, it makes the chances of them doing it a little bit less. And that is, it's a challenge.
You're right, and I think I'm a massive advocate for fostering. One of the sad things at the minute is that there's a lot of national surveys done amongst foster carers, and less than half foster carers would actually advocate for fostering now, because the challenge is so tough. And I get that totally. There's all sorts of reasons why you might say. If you've had a bad experience as a foster carer, you might have had an allegation. There's various things that can go wrong. You've had a traumatic experience. You might have had a child that you've looked after for years who suddenly turns her back on you and goes back to birth family, which happens many, many times when they get to 15, 16. And, despite all the love and care, there's that homing pigeon drawing instinct back to home. So there's loads of reasons why I'd say don't be a foster carer. You're going to have your challenges. But overall, I'm an advocate, because if you've got the opportunity to do it, then I would say do it, give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? So I always push that out, and again, happy to say here, if anyone ever wants to, if anyone's watching this or listening to this thinking, some of that resonates, I don't think I could do it, whatever, if you can't get in touch with me, and I'm more than happy to do that, just get in touch with your local authority fostering service and just have a chat. Check it out, because if you don't do it, you might look back one day. I know what if we hadn't done it, we'd have looked back. We'd be talking to other friends, maybe with foster carers, thinking, we could have done that. We didn't do it. We missed out. So, and it isn't right for everyone, but you've got to do yourself do justice to your thought process. Thinking, actually, if I'm thinking about it, I've got to find out, not just rule it out before I found out.
Well, Nicola said before, that's Jeff's wife, Nicola. she said to me about meetings, didn't she? And she said to me, so how many did you still do? Plenty. I went, yeah, I do plenty. And she went, like, why do you need to type thing? And I went, well, I keep getting phone calls off people who are struggling, and the more meetings I go to, the more people I meet, and the more phone calls I get. I said, and and obviously, if I'm single, I've not got a girlfriend at the minute. What's better than trying to help somebody along in their life? And she said, oh, you do it for them then? You're doing it for them? I went, well, yes, but amazingly, and amazingly, when I've been to loads of meetings in a week, I feel pretty good. So I just believe it's the same principle, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's incredible, isn't it? Like the way you've been helping me, like I said, you get in your bubble, and not everyone does that. Like we've obviously spoke about your career and the business side. You've achieved so much. The big thing I'm taking away from today and meeting you again, yes, you were brilliant for every club you've worked at and brought success. For me, I'll take away the fostering. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, it's a caring.
It's something you should be really proud of.
Yeah, no, I've got enough self-esteem to be proud of that.
Glad.
and also of Nick. I mean, without the two of us are great. We often talk about Team Durbin, the two of us.
You are.
I couldn't do it without her. She couldn't do it without me, apparently. And, we do complement each other in different ways. She's the boundary setter. I'm the one that wants to go off and play and,
Well, you're an amazing couple.
So it works well, to be fair. But you get to that point where people just assume, and they say the dreaded question, so are you retired now or semi-retired? I balk at it. I bristle at it because the word retired just doesn't work. But it's a fair question, isn't it? But then you look at everyone to what they're doing in retirement, and it's so hard not to judge when you see someone who literally does nothing other than go on holiday, play golf, go and have a massage, whatever it might be, and it's absolutely wrong. And
they're the middle class lucky ones, Geoff.
Well, but actually, it's like, well, yeah, that sounds great. But I sort of want to, but I don't say anything. I think you're missing out. Even if you just spent one day a month doing something where you're putting back, I think you'd do it for selfish reasons. I mean, you could get into the psychology of all of that as to why we do things. For some people, that is the right thing. And they might have done so much in their working life that it's actually right for them to do that. But for me, I need to be doing something. The fostering's great. The other thing that I just want to mention, so at the other end of things, with fostering, it's about dealing with things that have already happened. With a charity called Great Minds Together, or not-for-profit organisation, Great Minds Together, I'm a co-chair there. And we provide specialist services for neurodivergent people with complex mental health needs. But what I love about that is that we're actually trying to prevent wrongful hospitalisation. We're trying to prevent wrongful involvement with the police. We're trying to keep people out of the care system, because that ultimately is the ambition. If you say, well, how many foster carers do you actually think we want? The answer should be none. In an ideal world, we'd have none, wouldn't we? Because no one actually. So it's quite, for me, it's nice to have that involvement and work with a fairly. Well, as I say, it's less than 10 years old, but we're now employing about 50 people, and we have huge contracts. We have to focus on that as well. Fostering is always going to be there, probably, sadly, but we also have to look at how we can prevent things. And so I'm a massive advocate for fostering. Just going back to that time, how much of it was just genuine, you being yourself, and how much of it was actually you acting a bit of a role?
I was definitely acting a role, because I do come across as a really confident lad. I'm always the one making the jokes, but I think I did that and become overconfident to hide the fact that I wasn't. So the football pitch was a place where I could let all that go and just play football. And again, even some of that was a little bit of a facade. But I got the tag of the tough tackling midfielder. I wasn't tough. I was probably I'm a lover, not I'm soft to the core. But I knew I had to have that persona to get on in football. I knew I had to have something different. I didn't have pace, and I didn't have a right foot. So how can I get on in this industry where I want to be a footballer so much? Right. I had a decent left foot, but I made a notable effort of shaving my hair off, looking aggressive, walking aggressive. But it wasn't really.
Do you remember the sending off?
I'll never ever forget about
There's
it.
There's no video of it though, which I'm probably quite thankful for.
But it is true. Is my memory right that it was aggressive walking to the referee and asking a question? Yeah. Well, what was the question then?
Do you know what? I think it included Weaves. Weaves had been fouled. Weaves had been fouled it was Bournemouth away. Jamie Pollock had already been sent off, and it was a crap game, 0-0 I think it was. Loads of City fans there, and there was a foul and there was a break in play, and I was walking to the ref. I don't think he give it, or something, I can't really remember. But I was walking towards him to say like that's a foul. But as I got to him, he's flashed a red card. I was about 5 yards from him, and I've sort of looked behind me. He said, "No, you off you go." And I said, "Me? Why?" He went, "So I've gone off into the dressing room. Jamie Pollock's just getting in the show." He went, "You've been sent off." I went, "Yeah." He went, "What for?" I said, I actually don't know. I don't know. And then obviously the report come through. I think there's been reports since that I swore, but I didn't swear. Joe come in and said, "What did you say to him?" I said, "I didn't say anything." I got
loads of the fans, but loads of the big aggressive walking.
Yeah, aggressive walking. Yeah, apparently I walked towards him in an aggressive manner in his report. But
that has to be a one-off. There can't be anyone who's ever been sent off
no, man.
before or since
I
for
miss
aggressive
games for
walking, surely.
I missed games for that as well. Yeah, but do you know what? It's something in my career that spoke about a lot.
Yeah.
Every time obviously City play Bournemouth, I get messages and Twitter or X blows up and the Kevin Horlock derby and all that because of the aggressive walking. I think this programme teaches you to be honest. Show vulnerability. And I don't care. Like I've told my story to everybody, and I was scared of what people would think. But why should I be? That is my story, and that's this is why I'm here. Yeah. This is and to talk. I mean, I'm quite an emotional person, sensitive. I share in meetings at times. I get welled up talking. I was getting upset like you was about when you was talking about
was like in
I'm
the car.
Emotional, but I don't care people seeing that now. I don't care. This is me.
It's just funny again getting back to fostering though. That exactly what you've said is one of the biggest challenges with the children that we care for. Because you imagine the last thing they're going on to do is show vulnerability with what they've been through. So a lot of that is, getting them to be able to do any of that or accept actually, to show any weakness.
Show so how you feel.
That it's very difficult to really find out what's going on in their heads. It really is. And it's almost like a younger version of what you just described there. Go forward to 2026, Man City dressing room, Liverpool dressing room, Port Vale dressing room, doesn't matter. Do you think that it is fundamentally different now in that, I don't just mean in terms of how the players can't go out and drink and do all the things you did, but actually, is there more of an openness and a more ability to show vulnerabilities? Or actually, do you think that dressing room is still probably really hard for most lads because you know what it's like in there, where you have to go along with certain things. It might be the certain trends. This is a great car. This is not a great car. This is the way I live my life.
I think that would still be there.
Do you think it's still the same?
I think it'd be probably worse.
No.
Yeah. It's all like, look, and they earn massive amounts of money. And I don't even resent that. Fair play. That's the way football's gone. And earn as much as you can while you can. But I think it'd be a nightmare. Yeah. Like what you wear to train in, what car you're driving in, what girlfriend you got. Like,
So actually, and I don't know how that changes, but what you're almost predicting is go forward another 25 years, there's another podcast like this with different people involved, probably going through similar situations because they aren't dealing with it now.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I suppose if you're on £250,000 a week, it would be hard to spend it all, but still possible.
But then you've got 250 grand a week to spend on things that maybe you shouldn't when you haven't got that thing that you've lived for. I think that's what I struggled with massively. Was all I knew was football. That
will be the same because even they might have got they don't need the money, but they'll still have the loss of direction. What do we do now?
And obviously they're earning that amount of money where they're investing. So hopefully a lot of footballers will come out now and have business interests and things to focus on, which I was probably in that space where, that grey area where you didn't have enough money to retire, probably didn't have enough money to invest in something else.
Did you not get any advice, from people that you trusted? Did you have an agent?
Not really, no. I just wanted to be a footballer.
Did you not have an agent?
No.
I mean, you didn't come on a lot of them jobs, but Cheltenham races in a stretch limo with a few of the lads, and just, these days, like a Christmas party thing, there'd be other people around, no security.
It's one of them, like, you say you're out with the footballers. Well, it's how I see it, that others might not see it like that, and some didn't, which I didn't get on with. But I'm just a normal lad from South East London that just happened to play football. I couldn't do your job. I couldn't do your job.
Can you imagine now?
It's just a job, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Can you imagine now with cameras? on phones. Everybody's got a camera.
Yeah.
Everyone can video everything that's
Oh,
going
absolutely, yeah.
the difference,
Yeah.
you know.
I suppose it had to change
without
because of technology.
dropping anybody
You
in
mentioned
it,
about the
can
older
you?
players. It's mental, isn't it? I think I see a bit on Bobby Moore, and it blew my mind. Like, obviously, Bobby Moore was captain of England and West Ham legend, and this icon. In the close season, he got a job in supermarket.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's mental. Like, when you... Like,
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And in terms of the drink side of things as well, I mean, Francis used to talk about, the drink culture in the 60s, 68, championship winning side. So we won the league with a team of boozers. So, you could actually still do it. It doesn't mean you can't do it.
Probably because everyone was doing it.
Yeah, probably, and they can handle it. But again, it's that that peer group pressure is something I think we all struggle with, like whether you're at school, whether you're in a football team. It's one of the strongest things, and it's that's why I look at younger people who've stood up against that, particularly the kids we've come across in foster care, who've shown this amazing mental fortitude that I never had as that sort of age, and the hardest thing is actually convincing them how strong they're being, how good they're being. But it's really interesting to talk to a care leaver, and some do get it, and they actually can say, yeah, that's part of my journey. But they all should be saying, hang on, I've overcome these challenges far more than somebody who's not had to face those challenges.
I do. You know what? There's so many similarities between being in the fellowship. And what I was going to say before, in the middle of the conversation, I'll keep moving around here, but Kev isn't actually out of football now. And I honestly, talk about having dreams. I used to always have dreams for myself. Or maybe my kids, but I have dreams for you. Don't know this, but I have dreams for you. I'm not dreaming about you like that.
What are these going to say?
No, so for example, on Saturday afternoon, I used to do it with. I did it with all mixed teams, whoever he was managing, and then when Mark Kennedy was at Lincoln. But now, looking at the score, 3:20, how they're doing, and it's great. Even at your level, the scores are.
You always ring me after the game, don't you?
Yeah, oh mate, I'm watching, and I say a little prayer when it's half time. Right, a little prayer. Let's have a look at the half time score.
What do you do? Kevin makes the right substitutions.
I'm surprised you're not bringing yourself on, because look, this is the most annoying thing about it. You hardly look any different.
No,
It's
trust me,
ridiculous.
they've done it long gone.
Ridiculous.
But at 52, Jeff. So how old are you? 60? What are you now?
Do I have to say that?
Yeah, come
64.
on. 64, right, 66. So he's got 12 and 14 years on us, right? We have not finished yet, have we? Come
Absolutely
on, we're not
not.
slippers, and we are not that person. This thing, we're just starting. Who knows where it might go with everything? Who knows?
Yeah.
Me and you were doers. You're a doer, mate. You are a doer. So you've got, can you imagine, with all your natural talents, with your football knowledge, with your likability, with this programme, and not being a pisshead, and whatever.
Yeah, well,
who knows where it might go?
I tell you what, he's going to be a foster carer in about 3-4 years' time.
Do you know what?
Not giving up on that one.
What will be, will be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but I don't. When you're younger, you strive to be this, be that. I don't anymore.
No,
I live my life the right way.
One day at a time.
And what will come to me will come to me.
But what I mean I honestly, I have great faith in, if you do the right thing. See, I know lots of people in the different fellowships that they have a God, and they use a religious God. I have a higher power God, group of druggies, group of drunks, whatever it might be. But I have total faith in a 12-step program.
Something will come.
If you stick to these guidelines, which are lovely and spiritual and really beautiful, if you stick, the best version of yourself and your future will emerge from that if you stick with that. And I have total faith in that. And so I don't have that, I'm going to do this. I don't. My business partner can't get his head around a little bit this podcast. What's your goal? So I'm not sure.
See what happens.
I'm not sure. Well, what do you mean? Well, you never know. Might do this, might do that, might do the other.
Help someone.
It might help me.
People.
That's all it might do. It might do this, it might do that. Who knows? It doesn't really matter, does it?
100%. I mean, I think there are times in life where you have got to be very specific and clear about your objectives. But something like this, and I think what the evidence is in terms of the higher power or fate or whatever you want to call it, you can, and you already have on previous podcasts quoted some incredible examples. We were talking about one earlier where you think, that can't just be coincidence, and maybe it is because we don't actually know, but it almost seems too much to be, and there's too many to think that it is just coincidence.
Yeah.
So if actually that supports your view of higher powers, great, because why not? Why knock it? I think the older you get, where you get more confident is in saying, you know, I've got a bit of wisdom now. I don't get everything right, absolutely not. And I'm conscious all the time. Nikki's going to be watching this. I can see it now. She's like, you know, what are you talking? Wisdom? Why is what you do, you old fool? But no, I'm confident in that generally you do get a different perspective on it when you get older. And that's just natural. That's the way life should be. And if you can
quite
pass
a
that
wise
on,
man, Geoff. You've always been, apart from having me as a mate, you've always been quite a wise man.
Can I just say, you know, in return, firstly, thanks for your friendship. And
Thanks.
obviously, we've not seen each other for a while, but I feel like we're friends again now. And it's great to catch up. And I'm sure we'll spend much more time in the future. But thanks for the opportunity. It is nice.
Geoff.
It is nice also, apart from reminiscing and having a lot of laughs, you know, to push fostering a bit, which I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do that.
Geoff.
And, you know, the offer is there for anyone in our circle or anyone listening that, you know, wants to ever talk or share about that. Always happy to do that. So thank you from my point of view.
If anybody's
as well.
like that, send a little, watch one of the pods.
Yeah.
And just
Comment
comment
below,
on
yeah,
the comment, that you want to speak to Geoff. And
Absolutely.
we'll make that happen.
They'd be very, very welcome.
He's
to
an
do
absolute top
Brilliant.
guy. Kev, thank you.
Been a
Geoff,
pleasure.
thank you very much.
Thank you both. Yeah, thank you.
And we'll see you all next week. Thank you.